Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 10th overall spot. Inside of today's video, I'll be going in-depth into my thought process as I make every single pick inside of this draft, as well as discussing some of the other picks going on around me. Some of these picks I'm going to end up really liking, as well as some of the picks that I don't like as much, and I feel like I should comment on as well. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel, and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into this 10-team PPR mock draft from the 10th overall spot. So the roster settings of today's mock draft are going to be 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. Let me know down below in the comment section where your favorite spot to draft is in a 10-team league. Personally, I like being at the edge of the draft, so either pick 1 and 2 or 9 and 10. I feel like I can control my team a lot better from the turn. Now, does that mean that the 4, the 7 pick are bad? No, because some people would prefer to be closer to the middle. So let me know down below in the comment section how you guys feel about that. So let's get into things. The draft begins with Derrick Henry, followed by Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook, and Davante Adams. So seeing Derrick Henry go at the 101 is definitely shocking. I definitely would not be doing that. Is it going to happen in some leagues? Definitely, but not a normal occurrence. Christian McCaffrey at the 102, very acceptable. Christian McCaffrey should be or could be the 101, the first overall pick in a lot of drafts. The upside with him is immense. I know some people are scared about drafting him because Christian McCaffrey has burned them over the last couple of years, but when this guy is healthy, he could be scoring 35 plus PPR points per game, which is just fucking insane. Jonathan Taylor, pretty normal as well. So nothing really that out of whack besides Derrick Henry going at the 101. In a 10-team league, I would say that in most drafts, you're going to see just 3 wide receivers go in the first round. I'm honestly shocked that Ja'Marr Chase was not selected ahead of Davante Adams. I get why someone might want to take Davante Adams over Ja'Marr Chase, but in basically 99% of drafts, I really see Ja'Marr Chase go ahead of Davante Adams. So we're up on the board here to make our selection, and something I've talked about a bunch in the past is that in a 10-team league, I view the tight end position as very important to your success in the league, because every single team in this league is going to be fucking stacked. Even someone who isn't that great at drafting in a 10-team league is going to have a very competitive team that could beat you any week. But you want to know how you get better than them is by drafting a tight end, getting that positional advantage at the onesie spots. This is also something you talk about with the quarterbacks. You can draft a quarterback a little bit earlier in a 10-team league because you are getting such a strong advantage at tight end by drafting Travis Kelce. You are going to be playing up against, say, the top 5 tight ends you view to be the best, and then after that, things get a little bit dicey. So 5 teams are going to have a huge advantage, but in my opinion, having the guy that I feel as though is a lock to be the #1 tight end at the end of the year with Travis Kelce, you know how safe he is every week. He has that crazy upside in Kansas City with Tyreek Hill gone. I think Travis Kelce is a no-brainer first-round pick in a 10-team or an 8-team league to get that positional advantage at tight end, and then after that, you can honestly just take your favorite player available. Now, normally in a 12-team league, a rule of thumb of mine is that I want to be taking 1 running back in the first 2 rounds. Now, I don't want you going into your draft thinking, I need to do that, because then you're putting yourself in a box and you're reaching on running back potentially, because say no wide receivers were gone, right? And all running backs went in the first round. This is a crazy running back draft. And then you take a running back here, you're really hurting your chances because you could have gotten the wide receiver 1 in fantasy football at the 201. So I think you should go into the draft with a good idea of what you want to do, but you have to mold your strategy as the draft goes on. So here, while I would normally go with running back, Ja'Marr Chase being available is amazing. I really think Ja'Marr Chase has the upside to be the #1 receiver in fantasy football. The offensive line getting better in Cincinnati is a humongous positive for this team. I I love Ja'Marr Chase here at the 201. If he wasn't available, I likely would have went with his teammate Joe Mixon. After Joe Mixon, we see Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, DeAndre Swift, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Javonte Williams, Deebo Samuel to close out the second round. The third round opens with Saquon Barkley, Josh Allen, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Mock Andrews, Mike Evans, Leonard Fournette, Kyle Pitts, and Ezekiel Elliott. It seems like this draft might be on the same wavelength as my thought process on the tight end position. I like Andrews, I like Pitts, but again, I definitely would have rather secured Travis Kelce because if I'm being honest, I don't think by the time things were to swing back to me at the 310, it was very likely that Pitts or Andrews would have been available. I know for sure Kelce would have been gone, and more than likely all three would be gone. So we're back up on the board here. The running backs are not so great right now, so we're going to take the one running back that I still feel confident in, and that is going to be James Conner, running back of the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the only negative thing you can bring up about James Conner is the fact that he scored so many touchdowns last season that that's bound to go down, and even if the touchdown number does decrease for James Conner, I really do believe that the amount of volume he will see in the receiving game, as well as potentially more touches as a whole on this team, are going to increase. And even if he doesn't score a crazy amount of touchdowns, his point total will still be pretty solid. I think he could easily be a top 10 running back in fantasy. So getting that in the third round is amazing. Now we enter the running back zone where I don't really like these running backs. Now again, could you select Travis Etienne, Breece Hall, Cam Akers, David Montgomery? Definitely. But honestly, I would rather just wait until deeper in the draft to select my number 2 running back. I'm very confident when it comes to James Conner, so I am just going to go with best player available here. And honestly, I don't think any of the running backs are, so we're going to go with a wide receiver at this spot. Again, while I think you might want to reach slightly more on a quarterback in a 10-team league in the 4th round, I'm still probably waiting until the 5th round if I'm being honest with you. So here, we got a couple of choices to make. Best players available here are Keenan Allen, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, Michael Pittman. Now, we already have Ja'Marr Chase, so taking T. Higgins is a bit of overkill in my opinion. And in my opinion here, the best wide receiver available is Keenan Allen. While he is getting up there in age, he is still one of the more talented wide receivers in the NFL, one of the best, if not the best, route runner in the National Football League, and he is on one of the best offenses with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. To me, he's a no-brainer selection in the 4th round. After Keenan Allen, we see David Montgomery, Cam Akers, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert the pervert, Higgins, George Kittle, Michael Pittman, Terry McLaurin, Darren Waller, Deontay Johnson, Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, Antonio Gibson, Breece Hall, DK Metcalf, and Lamar Jackson. Darren Waller is starting to worry me immensely. Darren Waller's week 1 status is up in the air. This man has been dealing with a undisclosed injury for basically 97% of fucking training camp. I am not nervous that, I don't think Waller's going to miss the whole season, but the fact that he could miss multiple weeks scares me a lot, and I don't want to chase injuries in fantasy football, right? Because the injuries are going to fucking find you, and they are going to destroy your team potentially. So why draft someone who you know is injured in the 4th round of a 10-team league? It just doesn't make much sense to me. I don't want anything to do with Darren Waller right now. I think his upside is great, but drafting right now, today is August 25th, when things aren't that clear, I'd rather just stay away from him, if I'm being honest with you. I still like Waller, and I really do think he could be the number 1 tight end in fantasy football, but with the hamstring injury, what is believed to be a hamstring injury based upon what I have read, I am very nervous about that. So I figured that would be something important to note. Here is when I'm open to take a quarterback, but we definitely want to get at least one wide receiver here. The running backs, I like Dobbins a decent amount, if I'm being honest with you. I just worry about this backfield being a full-on running back by committee, and that does kind of scare me a decent amount. In Baltimore, I know Gus Bus Edwards has been put on the PUP, or has been put on the PUP, physically unable to participate, and that's likely going to make him miss, obviously makes him miss 4 weeks, so it could be like 6, 7, 8 weeks. So Dobbins is good about that, but they still have other running backs on the team. I wouldn't even be surprised if Ronald Jones got cut by the Chiefs, and then they bring in Ronald Jones. So this is a confusing situation. I'd rather just go wide receiver here. So we're going to go with best wide receiver available, and in my opinion, that is Cortland Sutton. You could say and make the argument that I'm about to make about Cortland Sutton, about how he's the number 1 receiver on the Denver Broncos. You can probably say the exact same thing about Jerry Jeudy, make that argument. The thing is, I have seen Cortland Sutton do it at the NFL level. Even with dog shit quarterback play, I've seen Cortland Sutton be really good. I have not seen that out of Jerry Jeudy. Now, does that mean that Jerry Jeudy's washed this awful pick that the Denver Broncos took a couple years ago? Of course, it doesn't mean that Jerry Jeudy just sucks ass, but it does mean that I feel a little bit less confident in him when compared to Cortland Sutton, and I really do believe Russell Wilson is going to be able to lift this offense up. So here, we could go wide receiver again, double tap on that, but we are going to go ahead and get a quarterback. I like Mr. Joe Shiesty a decent amount. I have him ranked underneath Kyler Murray as well as Jalen Hurts, but I typically, in these drafts, if I go a quarterback in the first 5-6 rounds, I typically go with Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts, so I want to differentiate things, and since I have Ja'Marr Chase, I want to go ahead and anchor these two guys together. Now, I don't necessarily believe that stacking is something that you must do in a redraft league. In best ball, it is imperative to winning. In DFS, you have to do it as well. But in terms of redraft, you don't have to do it to win. But I think it really helps when you have a guy like Ja'Marr Chase who's that fucking good and you draft his quarterback. When Ja'Marr Chase pops off, so will Joe Burrow. Some people make the argument, well, guess what? When they have a shitty game, most likely both of them could have a shitty game. And while that is true, the upside is just so immense. So I will go with Joe Burrow here, but I will let it be known that I have him ranked below Kyler Murray as well as Jalen Hurts, but that doesn't mean that I think Joe Burrow is some schlub either. After I go with Joe Shiesty comes Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Mitchell, Hollywood Brown, Mike Williams, J.K. Dobbins, Amari Cooper, Dalton Schultz, and T.J. Hawkinson, as well as Allen Robinson to close out the 6th. The 7th round opens with short king Kyler Murray, followed by Chris Godwin, and a run at quarterback Jalen Hurts, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Adam Thielen, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Dickie, Dak, Prescott, and Brandon Cooks. And now we are up. So this quarterback run that we see here of 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks going in the first 5 picks of the 7th round, you do not want to be caught lacking following in the ways of the run. When there's this many quarterbacks coming off the board, just draft a running back or wide receiver, a tight end. Just draft any other position, because now that so many people are taking quarterbacks, it's very unlikely that in the next round, the 8th round, the 9th round, people are taking quarterbacks, and you can snag Matthew Stafford, you can snag Trey Lance, Aaron Rodgers, these guys with top 10, top 5 upside potentially, and you don't have to run with the run. You don't have to do that. And this person taking Dak is basically a fucking idiot, because every single other person now has a quarterback, including me, so you could wait a while before you take another quarterback. In my opinion, you shouldn't even take 2 quarterbacks. So I don't think any of these teams should take 2, but it's more than likely that people will in your at-home league, because people don't follow by that thought process. Not everyone does. So this person could have literally snagged potentially Trey Lance in like the 11th round, kept hammering running back and wide receiver, but instead they faltered and drafted a quarterback. So I figured that was something important to talk about, because while it is a computer that is doing this, this is something that could happen in your real draft and likely will happen, so it's something to talk about. So we're back up on the board here. We still need a running back number 2, and I don't want to reach on one, but I do feel as though there's a player that I do decently like, and that's A.J. Dillon. Now, I have been someone that has been banging the drum aggressively for Aaron Jones, because I believe that Aaron Jones is the clear number 1 back on this team. But there is still argument to be made that A.J. Dillon is going to potentially see a pass-catching upside volume boost, because Adams is gone. I think Aaron Jones is going to get a lot of that, but maybe Dillon does. And maybe Dillon cuts more into Aaron Jones's share than I think. And Dillon's a great fucking running back, so that is definitely possible. So while I've bumped up Aaron Jones a bunch, while I really love Aaron Jones this year, I still think A.J. Dillon is a perfectly acceptable pick in the 7th round. I've seen him go in like the 6th and the 5th round in some drafts. I think that's a little bit crazy, but in the 7th round, I'm fine with A.J. Dillon. Looking at the other running backs here, the only running back that I'd honestly find acceptable to draft here is Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. I think Clyde Edwards-Hilaire is going really under the radar right now. Now, obviously, if you've drafted him the last couple of years in the 1st or the 2nd round, you are probably all out on Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, because he's basically fucked you directly in the ass without even using the common courtesy to spit or use any lube or anything like that, just raw dogging you right in the ass. But this year, I think things are going to be a little bit better for him. Everyone's hopping on the Isaiah Pacheco train. I really think Clyde Edwards-Hilaire is still the lead back there. I get why some people would be nervous, but again, I try to take that bias out of anything. I never drafted Clyde Edwards-Hilaire in the last couple of years, so I don't really have that bias. So look in here, it's either running back, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, or receiver. We are going to go with the upside of the wide receiver position here, and since I'm comfortable with Chase, with Allen, and Cortland Sutton, I don't understand why people aren't more all aboard the DeAndre Hopkins train. I understand he's going to miss the first 6 games of the season, but when he comes back, it's not like DeAndre Hopkins is some fucking schlub. DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. I understand you can't use him for the first couple of weeks of the season, but guess what? If your league has an IR spot, there is even more reason to draft D-Hop, because right after this draft, you can put D-Hop in the IR and then just pick up another wide receiver, and then it doesn't even matter that you drafted D-Hop, and then guess what? When you get to the point where D-Hop's back, you just cut someone, and now D-Hop could be your wide receiver 2 or your flex every single week. And with the upside D-Hop has, to me, he's a no-brainer selection. I don't know why people don't talk about him more. I really like D-Hop this year. So after D-Hop comes Michael Thomas, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, Damian Harris, Juju Smith-Schuster, Corvette, Darnell Mooney, Kareem Hunt, Hunter Renfrow, Miles Sanders. I talk about Miles Sanders and Juju Smith-Schuster. A bit of a spoiler in the video that came out earlier today, my do not draft players for this year. So I don't like Juju. I don't like Miles Sanders. If you want more explanation into that, watch that video. It's really good. It took me a while to edit, so make sure you watch that. So after Miles Sanders comes Gabe Davis. The 9th opens with Cordell Patterson, Rashad Master Bateman, Rashad Penny, Kenneth Walker, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, Drake London, and Devin Singletary. So right now we have 2 running backs. We have 4 wide receivers. We got our quarterback and our tight end. And when you draft a quarterback and tight end this high in the draft, don't draft 2 tight ends. You can just cut someone when Travis Kelce's on bye week 8. When Joe Burrow's on bye week 10, you just cut someone else. And then guess what? Now you have another quarterback that you can play, another tight end that you can play. Do not draft 2 tight ends or 2 quarterbacks. When you already invested that high of draft capital, you're assuming Joe Shiesty is going to be great. You're assuming Travis Kelce is going to be great. So there's no need to have a backup, in my opinion, at those positions. So here it's either running back or wide receiver, and that's what it's going to be for the whole rest of the draft here. Looking at the running backs, I feel like there's a decent fall off after Chase Edmonds. I really do think that Chase Edmonds is the clear number 1 running back in Miami, and I think Chase Edmonds is in position to dominate this season. The Miami Dolphins are a team that's going to look to be running the ball a lot. I understand they bring in Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's probably going to run the ball as well in this offense, but they want to run the ball with the Mike McDaniel system. That's why Gesicki's kind of struggling, because they need Gesicki to block. They need to run the fucking rock, and I think Chase Edmonds is the clear number 1 running back there in training camp, as well as in that preseason game we saw him play last weekend. Chase Edmonds looked really good. So I'm very confident in him. Looking at the other running backs here, leaves more to be desired. I like Damian Pierce, but do I really want to reach on him at this point? Probably not. Will he come back to us, though, is the question, because Damian Pierce is getting steamed up by the fantasy community as a whole. And to be honest with you, I don't think he's going to come back to me. So we're going to reach on him slightly. Damian Pierce should be the locked and loaded number 1 running back in the Houston Texans backfield. The Houston Texans team might be complete and utter dog shit this season. They could finish dead last in the NFL. And I think that Damian Pierce could still be good. There's been running backs before in the NFL that have been on fucking atrocious teams and have been really good for fantasy. So Damian Pierce should be just fine again. I believe he's the number 1 running back. If the team trots out Marlon Mack to get the first carry of week number 1, I would honestly be shocked at this point. And the Houston Texans, whoever the fuck owns that team, the GM should be fired immediately. So should the head coach, because honestly, Damian Pierce is clearly the best running back on this team. After Pierce, we see Tony Pollard, Brandon Ayuk, Tyler Lockett in my pocket, Alan Lazard, Chris Olave, Treylon Burks, James Cook, Elijah Moore, and Mr. Aaron Rodgers. The 11th opens with Dawson Knox one time if you are with me, Ramondre Stevenson, Matt Stafford, Trey Lance, Michael Carter, Melvin Gordon, Kadarius, Tony Tyler, Boyd, and Robert Woods. So there's some smoke out there right now. Michael Carter is still the number 1 running back on the Jets. If you have Breece Hall you've already drafted, don't panic on Breece Hall. But this is something that I have talked about in the past, where I'm worried that at the start of the season, Breece Hall is not going to be the guy, that they're going to rely on Michael Carter more. I think eventually during the season, Breece Hall is going to be the guy. So I wouldn't panic too much, but that is something to note, because that was a big news blurb that I read yesterday. Before we make our next pick in this draft, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor of today's video. I'm pointing at him right now. I guess I probably should use my other hand. Yeah, this way. Pointing at him right now. Underdog Fantasy, which is the best place to play fantasy football this summer. The Best Ball Mania 3 tournament has $10 million in total prize money. $2 million to the first place winner. All you got to do is draft your team. That's it. You don't have to worry about doing waivers all Tuesday night. You don't have to worry about making trades. And there's no in-season management, because Underdog will automatically give you your best score at the end of each week. They will automatically put the best lineup in for you. Last year's Best Ball Mania champion drafted in June. So while some people wait to draft their regular redraft fantasy football league in on Labor Day, right? Labor Day weekend. You don't have to wait. You could draft your team right now. And Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100 when you sign up using promo code Stokastic, Stokastic, which is good for 4 entries into the Best Ball Mania 3 tournament. And make sure you guys do click on the link in the video description down below, because if you click on the link there, it will give you not only the first match deposit bonus of up to $100. You deposit $100, you get an additional $100. That's $200 total dollars. They will also give you our free redraft and best ball draft kit. So make sure you guys do go ahead and check that out. So let's get into things here. The 11th round, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 wide receivers, but we need more wide receivers because we can't use D-Hop instantly. And again, that's not a negative. I like the fact that D-Hop has that upside, but obviously you can't use him early on in the season. So I don't necessarily like that you can't use him at the beginning of the season, but I'm fine drafting him is kind of what I meant there in all those words. So we want another receiver here. We're going to go with the most upside as possible, and I think that is Christian Kirk. Now, Christian Kirk played a lot in that preseason game last week with Trevor Lawrence. He was lining up in the slot, not half the time, it was around half the time, and he saw a bunch of touches, a bunch of targets, I should say, for the team. I think Christian Kirk is going to end up being the #1 receiver. I do like Marvin Jones a lot later on in drafts, but in a 10-team league, he probably won't even end up getting drafted. And if we want to go for a balanced approach, again, we have James Conner, A.J. Dillon, Chase Edmonds, and Damian Pierce. That's 4 running backs. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers. If we want to balance things, we could go with another running back here, but we are going to go and double down on the wide receiver position, then take a running back with our last pick before we get out of here and draft our kicker and defense. So again, we are just hunting for upside late on in the draft. I'm not looking for some safety late on in the draft. I'm not looking to double wrap 2 condoms over my roster. I want the highest upside possible. And players that have a lot of upside are rookies, because you've never seen them before. Skye Moore could be the #1 receiver on the Chiefs. He might be the #7 receiver on the team. Now, that's very unlikely, obviously. It's not like he's going to fall down to Josh Gordon territory, but maybe he's like the #1 target. Maybe he's the #4 target, right? You never know. So he has a lot of upside, but we do already have Kelsey, so I don't want to really go too deep on the Chiefs, but if there was ever a team you want to draft a bunch of players on, it would be the Kansas City Chiefs. So here, we're just going to go again. We're digging for that upside, and while I was out early on Julio, I'm starting to talk myself into the fact that the reason why they have Julio Jones is because he is going to be in that tight end role. He's going to be in that red zone role for the offense like Rob Gronkowski was, and he's going to score 1 million touchdowns. I mean, Julio Jones in the past years, of decade, basically, however long this man's been in the NFL, he's fucking ancient at this point, but he was allergic to scoring touchdowns. But now, maybe in Tampa, it's going to be touchdown season for Julio Jones. After we go with Julio comes Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth. Then we see Garrett Wilson, Kirk Cousins. You like that? Derek Carr, Mike Lickia, Mike Gesicki, Chase Claypool, James Robinson. Skye with 2 wides more. We see 2 defenses. Alexander Madison, a defense, 2 kickers, a defense, a kicker, and then Albert O. Again, guys, don't be drafting 2 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks. This is going to happen, though, in a lot of your leagues because people think, oh, you need to draft 2 quarterbacks. On buy 10, look down here. The guys that are going to be available for you to potentially pick up, Matt Ryan is perfectly serviceable. Tannehill is as well. Pickett could be the starting quarterback of the Steelers, and you might want to start him by then. So, fucking drafting 2 quarterbacks just makes no sense to me. I really don't understand why people do. In a super flex league, of course you need to do it. You need to draft 3 or 4. But in a normal 1 quarterback league, especially when you take a quarterback as highly as I have selected Mr. Joe Shiesty, it makes no sense to draft 2. So, want to get a running back here. Very balanced approach to our team. And we're going to go with Darrell Henderson, who I think, while he is clearly the backup on the team, if Cam Akers was to go down, Darrell Henderson would be jolted into an amazing position. And the fact is that head coach Sean McVay has talked up Darrell Henderson as potentially being it's like a 1A, 1B scenario in LA with the Rams, and that could really be beneficial to Darrell Henderson. So now we got to draft our kicker and defense. The best way to draft a defense is just finding a defense that is playing a dog shit offense in week number 1. And then after week 1, you just start streaming defenses. You pick up a new one. It's very easy to do. It's very easy to do. So week 1, the Broncos play up against the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks with Horsecock, Drew Lock, Geno Smith. That's not going to be a great game to watch. Obviously, the Broncos are probably going to skull fuck them. Russell Wilson going to Seattle. It's going to be very fun to watch. I guess technically from like a narrative standpoint, the Broncos are going to absolutely dummy them. But the Broncos defense is going to play great in that game. So the Broncos defense is a no-brainer pick. The only non-defenses and kickers here, we see Tyler Higbee, Nyheim Hines, George Pickens, Russell Gage, Michael Gallup, Hunter Henry, and Mr. Justin Fields. Shout out to my boy, my old bitch lame, but my young Hoku. Final pick here, we're going to go with the kicker. We are just going to go with the best kicker available in my mind, and that is Willie Lutz, kicker of the New Orleans Saints. So I'm going to go ahead and do the electric slide with myself to get me out of the way here so we can look at our team, and then I'm going to look at the whole draft board so that you guys can look at that. So our starting quarterback on the team is Joe Burrow. Our running backs are James Conner, A.J. Dillon. Our wide receivers are Jamar Chase and Keenan Allen. Our tight end is Travis Kelce. Our flex right now is Cortland Sutton. Our kicker is Will Lutz. Our defense is the Broncos, and our bench is comprised of DeAndre Hopkins, Chase Edmonds, Damian Pierce, Christian Kirk, Julio Jones, and Darrell Henderson. So I think we had an excellent draft again in a 10-team league. I am aggressive on the tight end position, and I think I'm also somewhat aggressive on the quarterback position because I really think having that one up at the 1Z position, having that great quarterback, having that great tight end is a huge advantage because, again, every fucking team here is going to be stacked. Now, there's going to be bad picks in the draft I do not like, and I've talked about a lot of them. There's going to be picks that I think are fucking dumb. I don't think Kenneth Walker is a good pick at all. Now, that was actually a bad example because I'm blocking Kenneth Walker's face right now with my big ass head, but Kenneth Walker was selected at the 9.4. If I move slightly, you can see his name right there. I don't think that's a good pick because he's banged up right now, and I think Penny's going to be the #1 running back. But even though he selects a bad pick in Kenneth Walker, in my opinion, he still has an excellent team, or she, whatever this computer's gender is. At the end of the day, I still think they have a good team, and every team's going to be good. But you want to know how you get that advantage. You draft that great tight end, that great quarterback. I think that is going to help you out a ton. I love you guys all so much. I hope you did end up enjoying today's video. Make sure you use promo code Stokastic on Underdog Fantasy. Get that free $100 first match deposit bonus, as well as the free draft kit. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy!